carried out an attack simulation exercise. Officials say China rehearsed an attack on the island today as part of Beijing's retaliation for a visit there by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. The Chinese exercises centered on 6 locations around the island and will reportedly last until midday tomorrow. Joey, over to you.
Marley. And with more on what's going on with Russia, Brittney Griner is sentenced to 9 years in Russian prison this week for smuggling a cannabis vape pen into the country. But the American basketball star could come home in weeks, as the White House reportedly discusses swapping a notorious Russian arms dealer for her freedom. Here to weigh in is former Defense Intelligence Agency officer Rebecca Koffler. Rebecca, thanks for joining us. Thanks for being in set.
Of course. Thank you for having me, Joey.
So I think I want to start with this first, because we had this debate yesterday on the 5. We understand that Brittney Griner has pled guilty and admitted to bringing this vape pen into Russia, but then she got 9 years in prison. Did she get what we would call a fair trial?
No, I don't believe there's such a thing as a fair trial in Russia, especially with this high-profile case. She got almost the maximum that one could get in the situations. Typically, in a similar situations, the Russians either get parole or get a maximum of 5 to 6 years.
You know, the idea that she'll come home in weeks is a contingent upon a prisoner swap. And just to go over what this merchant of death is accused of or has been convicted of, it's conspiracy to kill Americans, conspiracy to deliver anti-aircraft missiles, and aiding a terrorist organization. If this swap goes through to trade someone this high profile of a killer or a merchant for a celebrity, is that unprecedented? I mean, is our government making a mistake by handing him back over?
100% our government is making a very tragic mistake. This mistake will really endanger more Americans. We can potentially save 2 people, but think about this. Putin's playbook of hostage diplomacy works every time. The Obama administration gave back 10 sleeper agents, you know, in return for 4 Russians, not even Americans. Then the Biden administration just gave up Alexei Burkov, the world's most dangerous cyber criminal. So the Russians are just going to continue this type of hostage diplomacy, and also President Biden, with the stroke of a pen, will potentially undo years of work and millions of U.S. taxpayers' dollars that go into these operations, because Boot was nabbed in a sting operation conducted by our DA, Drug Enforcement Agency operatives, supported by scores and dozens of analysts, support personnel, and all of that will be just boom, and it will teach Putin that his playbook works.
I also want to note Paul Whelan is also potentially coming home in that trade, and we want Griner and Whelan home.
Of course.
I think everyone can agree on that.
Yes.
We have another topic here that I wanted to ask you about. So President Zelensky is seeking direct talks with China to help, obviously, aid his fight against Russia. You know, off the top here, does China benefit from an independent Ukraine or a Russian-controlled Ukraine? What is China's interest here?
China benefits from Russia being in control of Ukraine. Here's why. First of all, Russia and China are now strategic partners, and they have been deepening their economic and military ties since Putin's invasion on Ukraine. In fact, they have announced in the run-up to Putin's invasion on February 24th a no-limits partnership. So with regard to Nancy Pelosi's generated standoff between the United States and China, the Russians fully backed up the Chinese. And so the 2 situations, Russia and Ukraine, and the Russians wanted to absorb Ukraine back under their control and sphere of influence, and Taiwan and China are viewed similarly, and that's why Xi Jinping is watching very closely what's happening with that.
Listen, I could sit here and talk to you all day. You gave me a book here I will absolutely read. Thank you so much for joining us, and I think we're all together in hoping that the world becomes a better place for not only Ukraine and what's happening in Taiwan, but those 2 Americans to come home too.
And thank you, Joey, for your service and your sacrifice. It's because of people like you is that America is free and we're protected from foreign adversaries.
Yes, ma'am. Rebecca Koffler.
The New York City bodega clerk who was charged with murder for defending himself against a violent assailant says he's ditching New York for the Dominican Republic after those charges were dropped. The Bodega and Small Business Association telling the New York Post, quote, he is not going back to work at the bodega. He is taking a break, fighting with his trauma, and he said he is afraid for his life. Meanwhile, small business owners in New York City are begging Governor Kathy Hochul and other lawmakers to change current bail laws. Let's bring in United Bodegas of America spokesman Fernando Mateo. Fernando, good morning. It's great to see you. First of all, your reaction to the latest on Jose Alba, who's essentially being forced to flee the country for his safety.
Well, listen, what happened to him, to Jose Alba, was traumatizing. This is an older man that went to work every day, and unfortunately now he has to flee the country because of the threat to his life. We believe that bail reform wasn't meant for anyone other than first-time nonviolent offenders. Bail reform has been misinterpreted by judges, by district attorneys, by everyone. People are calling for bail reform to end. Victims are calling for it to end. Small businesses are calling for it to end. And most importantly, Mayor Adams is calling for it to end. We need to make sure that New York City has a governor that's going to listen to the needs of the city. The city is the driving force behind the state of New York. And when the mayor of New York City is asking Governor Hochul to change the laws, is because it's needed. Mayor Adams was a cop. He made arrests. He understands what it is to lock someone up for committing a crime and then seeing them in hours back on our streets. Yeah. Small businesses are fed up with this, and we're not going to take it any longer.
Well, Fernando, you're absolutely right. And this week, Governor Adams drew attention to the fact that 10 criminals in New York City have collectively been arrested 500 times for committing that many crimes. But Governor Hochul recently said that bail reform laws were recently tweaked, and judges now have more discretion to charge repeat offenders. So she's essentially saying the work has been done, the changes have been made, nothing more to do here. What's your reaction to that?
Absolutely not. The work hasn't started. Mayor Adams is trying to undo 8 years of Bill de Blasio destroying our city. He's trying to get small businesses to come back, businesses that have fled. New York City is a ghost town. New York City is not a city without small businesses. Small business people are fed up. They can't put up with looters, shoplifters, people that assault others, like the guy who assaulted Jose Alba. New York City needs to get back on track. I think Mayor Adams wants to do the right thing and has to do the right thing for New Yorkers, but we need a governor that's going to work with him. We cannot have the stress that we put up with Governor Cuomo and Mayor de Blasio. That cannot ever happen again. New York City needs to come back. We need to support our mayor. We need to support our small businesses. We need to take our city back, make it safe. Bail reform should be for first-time nonviolent offenders, not for serial repeat offenders, people that constantly break the law.
Fernando, keep speaking out. You're a great messenger to deliver this very, very important message. Best of luck to you and all the workers out there. They keep this country going. They do not deserve what's going on right now in New York City. We appreciate you joining us this morning.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, still ahead, another day, another report tying Hunter Biden's foreign business dealings to his father. Miranda Devine has the new revelations coming up next. Plus, we're checking back in with Adam Klotz at Liberty State Park for the annual Navy SEAL swim.
President Biden had a White House meeting with 2 Chinese executives. This was his 15th meeting with the businessman tied to his son, Hunter Biden. One of those Chinese businessmen emailed Hunter days later. He thanked him for the meeting, and he offered to repair Hunter's $100,000 electric vehicle, saying, quote, last Friday when we visited D.C., I heard you say that your Fisker is out of order and could not get service. Sorry, it would be our honor to get your Fisker fixed. I would like to give you a call to see what we could do to help you with the next step. It would be our great honor to welcome you to visit Fisker or Wang Shang at any time. Joining us now to react, Fox News contributor and New York Post columnist Miranda Devine. Miranda, just the details once again. Here, you know, With all of these details, we're now up to 15 meetings with just this one company alone. Of course, there's other connections as well. You would think, Miranda, at some point, for example, the FBI would say, well, this is interesting. Maybe we should look into this.
Hi, Will. You certainly would think that. You also would think that the White House might answer one or two questions on this issue instead of standing by Joe Biden's repeated insistence that he knows nothing about his son Hunter's overseas business dealings. And there are just at least a dozen, as you say, 15 now, recordings of Joe Biden having met with Hunter Biden's business partners, most of them that we have records of on the laptop and from White House logs, etc., are overseas business partners, including Chinese. Now, this association that Hunter Biden had with this Chinese company through his lobbying firm back in 2012, this was occurring at a time when President Obama had appointed Joe Biden, his vice president, as his point man for China, with the aim of controlling or stemming China's increased expansionism. And of course, that didn't work. Joe Biden failed miserably in that task. However, his son Hunter and his brother Jim got very rich through his Chinese influence. And this particular company we're talking about, Wang Zhang, back in 2012, was in business with a client of Hunter's, of his company, Seneca Global Advisors. And President Xi Jinping, who actually at that point was vice president, actually came to America, had dinners and lunches with Joe Biden, the vice president, within weeks of his being appointed as the China point man. And then they both went to LA together and unveiled this wonderful $1.25 billion merger between Hunter's business partner and this company, Wang Zhang.
You know, Miranda, this week, for example, Christopher Wray, the head of the FBI, was in front of Congress. He's talking about some of these whistleblowers. The red flags are everywhere. I interviewed John Paul Mac Isaac, the Delaware repair shop owner. He told me how little interest the FBI had in the information. Now you have whistleblowers, and Wray says, oh, that's concerning. But that's not enough. Concerning's not enough. Why so little interest from the FBI?
It's incredible. Really, you listen to Christopher Wray testifying, and he's like Mr. Magoo. He can't see anything. He doesn't seem to know who his own FBI people are. He's been sent multiple letters by Chuck Grassley, for instance, alerting him to the fact that he had an agent and an analyst who were actively intervening in the FBI's investigation into Hunter Biden, or derogatory information coming to the FBI about Hunter Biden, which would include the material from the laptop, which they'd had since December 2019, the actual laptop, and it would include, in October 2020, Tony Bobulinski's material that he gave to the FBI.
It's stunning, Miranda. It really is. And it should lead to other questions about exactly what's going on at the FBI. Miranda Devine, always great to talk to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Will.
You heard me mention that we interviewed the Delaware laptop repair shop owner, John Paul Mac Isaac. You should hear it in his own words. You can check it out at the Will Cain podcast. It's also on YouTube. You can watch that entire interview in partnership with Fox and Friends. I think it's up to over 4 million views. Go make it 4,000,000,000,001 with you. Thank you. All right, Carly, over to you.
All right, thanks, Will. Listen to this. The Los Angeles City Council voting unanimously yesterday to let voters decide whether to put homeless people in empty hotel rooms. The council was set to vote on the ordinance immediately, but decided instead to let the people of LA decide on the controversial matter on the 2024 ballot. Many homeowners in the city are furious over the issue, saying adopting the policy would put their guests and staff in danger. And a dance duo to remember. This San Pablo police officer shares the stage with an 8-year-old, Ivan, in a synchronized dance at the department's National Night Out. event on Tuesday. The pair, breaking it down to Pretty Young Thing, had the crowd dancing and cheering alongside them. The officer saying in a Facebook post that he is grateful for the support and is looking forward to working more to strengthen the bond between police and community. That's how you get it done. Love to see that.
All right, let's check back in with Adam Klotz live from Liberty State Park for the Navy SEAL Hudson River Swim. And it looks like he's running now. What's going on, Adam?
Hey, good morning, guys. Yeah, we did the push-ups earlier. Now we're out here running, which I'll tell you I hate doing. And I'm with Jason. Jason and I were super bummed that we had to wear shirts, as all the guys behind us are not wearing shirts, but we had to do it for the mics. It's not because we're shy. We just had to do it. It's a requirement to wear the microphones. Isn't that right, Jason?
That's right.
All right, so why are we out here?
Shirt. Hey, guys, we're here for the 4th annual running of the Navy SEAL Hudson River Swim right here at the beautiful Statue of Liberty. This swim is amazing. It is the 11th anniversary of Extortion 17, the downing of our helicopter. All our team members. We lost so many guys on that helicopter, 30 Americans, teammates. This swim is about patriotism. It's about Navy SEALs coming together and doing hard things. It is about just bringing people together and veterans helping veterans.
And we're raising money to help these veterans, right?
That's right. GI Go Fund is helping veterans transition to the civilian world, which is a really tough thing. And it's just been amazing, the support of all the Americans, all the people that come together. Amazing sponsors like Massive Supplements, Sunbelt Rentals, Sunga Life, all of them coming together to help our veterans.
Running is a part of this, and swimming is a part of this, and that's the big part. And we will be swimming next hour. And I'm nervous about it, guys, but I'm feeling better as we're running.
Wow.
Tossing it back to you.
Get you a big mouthful of the Hudson, Adam. Just take it in.
Apparently he's doing that later.
Hey, you're looking good out there. I'm impressed.
Yeah, and he did an interview running too. But I just can't get over that image of Navy SEALs running with giant American flags in front of the Statue of Liberty in Hudson River. It's a beautiful thing to see, and it's for a beautiful cause as well. Yeah. Visit gigo.org, by the way, if you want to donate to a great cause.
Yes. All right, time for a digital detox. We're testing out our...
Comes to the test.
Today, we have the top plant trends. Who knew there were plant trends for any space?
Joining us now is Vicky and Mickey Popat. Guys, what's going on?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for having us back.
Happy to have you here. So what are some of the plant trends this summer? What should people be buying?
Well, we got a couple of them over here. We want to start off with this one. This is called the Super Haas Avocado. Like
bigger
the name,
avocado, just like the Haas avocado, bigger, creamier.
Oh,
nicer.
I've never seen an avocado
Yeah,
plant
so they're all pretty, and they can be grown indoors. So you don't need a backyard. You can grow them in a container. Within a year, they make fruit really easy and better than the regular Haas. And then this one's another popular one. This is called the Kesar Mango. The best quality mango in the world.
One of the best.
I mean, it's amazing.
Everybody knows mangoes for strings. This one, no strings, slice and spoon and scoop and eat.
What's next?
Okay, the olive. So olives make one of the best indoor plants. They have beautiful silvery green leaves. They can be grown in a container. You know, they spruce up any inside of any house. I mean,
So, Mickey, these are all indoors. We can leave these indoors all year round.
So you don't need a special climate to have any.
So, and when you're growing them indoors, you want to put a nice container. So that's what we're going to be talking about next. How to repot them in a beautiful container. That way they look great for your space. You know.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let's do it. Show us how to repot.
All right. So this one's been repotted already. We're going to be doing these ones. Why don't you go ahead, Vicky? So the first step is you want to get a container that's about 1.5 to 2 times the size of your pond, which we have here already. You want holes for drainage, which
really good. We've already done the drainage.
Okay. And then
we've got rocks in here, pebbles. This also helps a lot with your drainage. It's very important.
Does that go in first?
Yes.
You put that in first, and then you put.
So you guys want to take the plants out?
All right. Plants are out. Put the rocks in.
Throw some rocks in. There you go.
There
Both
you
of
go.
these?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, just
okay. You can throw some more.
I want more rocks.
The more the better. The more the better. And then you want to just take the plant.
take that out.
And just take it out.
Grab it.
Drop
There
it
we
right
go.
in. Drop it right in.
Drop it right in. Scoot some dirt. Right?
Oh, wow.
Now, I have a question. Do you keep growing the size of the pot? How often do you have to get bigger?
So once you get to about a 25-gallon, you are good to go. So not too long. And then once you get them in there, you want to pack it in really well. You want to pack them in. Pack them in. Yeah, get your hands in.
Get your hands dirty.
Yeah, get them dirty.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
Listen, this was a lot of fun. We're gonna go to plantogram.com to buy Mickey and Vicky's plants and enter Fox and Friends 10 to get 10% off any order.
Plantogram.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us, guys. It was a pleasure.
And I feel very productive doing this as well.
All right, still ahead, Senator Bill Cassidy, Ken Paxton, Dan Bongino, and Dr. Jeanette Neshwa coming up.
All right, I'm going to get some more dirt in there. That we left there, but we brought home. We brought them home in our hearts. We brought their memories home. Daniel Greer being the one that's closest to me.
Yeah. And you shot a piece for Fox Nation honoring Daniel in your Alive Day, right?
Yeah, our 10-year anniversary a couple years ago, we sat down and went through this piece with Fox Nation. And I'll be honest with you, I can't watch much of it without tears coming to my eyes, because these are people that I respect. These are men among men, monuments on a mountain of what it means to be a Marine. And they said some nice things about me, so it really touched me.
Well, let's watch the piece.
Before the op was over with, they found 207 IEDs in 2 square kilometers, and I worked almost 50 of them in the first 5 days I was there. So when we woke up on the 6th morning, Daniel Greer and the engineers had found some things in this storage building that they needed us to come check out. Daniel kind of stayed ready with his rifle, and once I realized we were working with a situation where something could be rigged to blow, I said, hey man, why don't you take a few steps back? And Daniel just looked at me and said, no, you know, we're here to provide security for you. And that's just who he was. And so I leaned up against the wall. We had cleared that whole path 3 times. Daniel was about 10 yards to my right. I had taken my gear off and wiped the sweat out, and I put it back on, and I took a step with my right foot away from the wall. And when I took that one step, everything changed. A big cloud of dust came up. I felt my body become weightless, and I knew instantly what had happened. I'd seen it happen in front of me. I had responded to it happening to others, and I'd stepped on an IED. It was this amazing feeling, because you're not knocked out by a blast. Usually people go unconscious because their head gets hit. My head didn't get hit, so I was awake the whole time. I went to reach for a tourniquet because I could see my legs were gone. So I reached up to my shoulder to grab a tourniquet, and when I did, my arm came up, but my hand stayed in my lap. It had almost severed my right arm. And so I looked past what was left of my legs, and Daniel was on his belly 10 yards in the other direction now, looking back at me, and he wasn't moving. And so as they carried me off the battlefield, my eyes began to swell shut, and they took Greer off as well. I couldn't see him anymore. Honestly, in that moment, I don't know if I knew if I was going to make it or not, but that's part of the gig, you know?
So I was just kneeling next to him, next to his stretcher, and I was just talking to him. He just said, sir, I'm so sorry I let you down. You know, it just speaks to, you know, the heart and the character of a Marine like Sergeant Jones. I mean, that at a time when he's not even sure that he's going to make it through the helicopter ride, all his thoughts are with the rest of us.
2 days later, they woke me up in Landstuhl, Germany, in a hospital. And so the first thing I asked the nurse was, where's Greer? And she just kind of looked at me and smiled and said, don't worry, hon, you'll walk again. And what was really impactful about that moment that took me years to understand was she didn't tell me what I wanted to hear. She told me what I needed to hear in that moment. Because the truth was, Corporal Daniel Greer's family was taking him off life support that same day, if not in that very moment, and he didn't make it. And so she told me the most positive and truthful thing she could, which is that if I focused on me, I could walk again. I feel great. You know, I didn't lose my legs. I was given a second chance at life.
Just an incredible story, one we're honored you're sharing with us on this anniversary, Joey.
Yeah, listen, you know, I wasn't alone that day. I worked as a 2-man team. I had Staff Sergeant Eric Chur, a Marine, there with me. He was technically my team leader. We worked together on and off through that whole deployment, and I don't talk to him much anymore. So I hope, Eric, if you're out there watching, you know, I'm thinking about you today as well, and let's connect. We need to. And,
yeah. And so, what do you remember the most about the military member who lost his life?
Daniel Greer.
Daniel Greer.
You know, I was saying this earlier in the show. He was a big UT Vols fan. But I think one thing to point out is that Marine engineers, real quick here, they have a job of helping find the IEDs, and they can use explosives as tools. Marine EOD techs or bomb techs, that we take the IEDs apart. We go into the intricate details of how they're made, explosive properties, chemicals. We touch on each other's job, and sometimes we don't play well together. And Daniel was never that with us. We always felt supported. I think Daniel may have had aspirations of looking into going EOD after the deployment, but he was a Marine engineer, a very specific job, a little bit different than ours, but one we worked with closely, and he did it so well and so proudly, and it was rare you didn't see him with a smile on his face, and he loved to talk about his wife at the time, Stacy, and his son, Ethan. So, you know, thinking about them today as well.
We appreciate Daniel. We appreciate you as well, Joey. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
All right, let's turn to this now. New report out of the Daily Mail says then Vice President, 2014, Joe Biden met with 2 Chinese energy executives in the West Wing. Now, these are, or were, the 15th meeting between these businessmen and then Vice President Joe Biden. And just days after that meeting, a letter, I believe it was a letter or an email. It was an email was sent to Hunter Biden. You can make up your own mind whether or not it's quid pro quo, but it was offering Hunter Biden, hey, we heard during the trip that your $102,000 luxury electric vehicle, a Fisker, might be having trouble finding service. We here are at your service.
Yeah, and Will, you spoke to Miranda Devine. Nobody covers this story quite like her. She's all over it. Take a listen to what she had to say about President Joe Biden's influence-making and Hunter Biden. Watch this.
President Obama had appointed Joe Biden, his vice president, as his point man for China with the aim of controlling or stemming China's increased expansionism. And of course, that didn't work. Joe Biden failed miserably in that task. However, his son Hunter and his brother Jim got very rich through his Chinese influence. And this particular company we're talking about, Wang Zhang, back in 2012, was in business with a client of Hunter's, of his company, Seneca Global Advisors. And President Xi Jinping, who actually at that point was vice president, actually came to America, had dinners and lunches with Joe Biden.
So I think the takeaway today, look, this continues to mount. Okay, at some point, I imagine for the viewer, you're like, oh, look, another example of potential corruption within the Biden administration tied to Hunter. I think the takeaway today is on the heels of listening to FBI Director Christopher Wray this week say, that's concerning. And that being the extent of the FBI's interest into corruption at the highest levels of the American government, we should wonder why their priorities, and Project Veritas report on this week. The FBI's priorities are to look into domestic terrorism and symbols of domestic terrorism like the Gadsden flag or the Betsy Ross flag as illustrated on my socks right now.
Oh, you racist.
This, according to the FBI, is more concerning, this pair of socks, than potential corruption at the highest levels of American government.
You know, I have, those 3 flags was the Gadsden flag, the Gonzales battle flag, and the Betsy Ross flag. I've got 2 of those tattooed on my body, so like I'm 2/3 of a guy. I'm also 2/3 of a terrorist, apparently.
Unbelievable.
And that's offensive to me. That bothers me that we have a government agency using things like patriotic symbols to investigate Americans, while the first son has this laptop of just absolute chaos that he just randomly leaves at a computer shop. And not only do we hear for a year that it's Russian disinformation, but once even places like the New York Times have to admit that it's legitimate, we don't understand why they're not vigorously looking into this and finding, you know, I'm not saying the president's compromised. I don't know. I think the fact that I don't know, the fact that I can't say there's no way he's compromised, that's concerning, and that deserves an investigation.
Yeah, and the reason we are even asking these questions is because there were these whistleblowers that came forward to Senator Chuck Grassley, who's the senator that's really leading the Senate investigation into Hunter Biden, and they said that the FBI, when they got their hands on Hunter Biden's laptop, because the laptop repairman gave it to the FBI, FBI after seeing some really concerning things on it, that they were saying that it was Russian misinformation, disinformation. So all along we've been saying that this was a media cover-up. Could it go back? It may not be the media that was covering this up. It actually could be coming directly from the FBI.
No doubt. And as the American people, we have to ask ourselves, I think we are asking ourselves, what institutions have retained any semblance of trust? What institutions have really lived up to their historical gravitas as they turn Revolutionary War and Texas Revolutionary War symbols in the Gonzalez flag into domestic terrorism symbols? We have some real questions. We should have some real questions about the FBI.
Absolutely. All right, turning now to your headlines. Listen to this. Actress Anne Heche is in critical condition after police say she crashed into multiple buildings, leaving one home engulfed in flames. The actress reportedly smashing into a parking garage before speeding away and then crashing into a home, starting a fire. The cause of those crashes are now under investigation. No other injuries have been reported. Alex Jones was ordered by a Texas jury to pay more than $45 million to the parents of a 6-year-old child who was killed in the 2012 Sandy Hook massacre. The child's parents saying Jones's hoax claims compounded their grief and left them afraid for their lives. This is an addition to the $4 million he was already ordered to pay for claiming the shooting was a hoax. Former NBA player and ESPN analyst Jalen Rose wants to cancel the term Mount Rushmore. Take a listen.
Can we retire using Mount Rushmore? That should be offensive to all of us, especially Native Americans, indigenous people, who were the first people here before Christopher Columbus. That land was stolen from them.
Rose also says the monument was built, quote, on top of the dead bodies of Native Americans. Those are, unfortunately, your headlines, or at least that last one was.
Absurd.
ESPN, well.
I'm friends with Jalen. That's just an absurd statement. That's an absurd take.
Well, where does that come from? Why is that take becoming trendy?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Joey. You know, guilt is in fashion. The idea that America itself is conceived of original sin. The world's history is one of conquer. Every people conquered one that came before it. By the way, the Lakota Indians, the Sioux Indians who were there in the Black Hills, that is where Mount Rushmore sits, took that land from previous tribes.
And they took it very recently before we did. And that's kind of the story of that land and of this country as we settled it.
It's the story of the world.
Exactly.
Yeah, and also at Mount Rushmore, they do honor Native Americans. There's a monument that honors Native Americans alongside Mount Rushmore. So this really serves dual purposes, celebrating American history, culture.